Keshachiputra Atra Surupam Rupam Tasagaja Puri Puri Maturim Gostuai Radha Kundamagirivaram Ahoradikaumādvasam Raptoyasa Pratita Kripaya Sri Guru Damnatusmi Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Ananda Leelamaya Vigrahaya Hemabhadivyatsave Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Sham Sundar Shikanda Sikh Smahas Murali Manara Radhika Rasakamama Kripanate Salyachana Kinkarim Kuru Bhaktya Vina Aparada Lakshe Jiva First of all, I offer my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times, at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmadya Paramaradhatama Guru Pada Padma, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Ashtotara Satasri Rupanuga Charivarya, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosvami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev and to Srila Prabhupada and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Vanchikalpatarubhastha, Kripa Sindhu Bheva Putitanam Pavani Bhyo Vaishnavi. Srila Gurudeva ki Jai! By the causeless mercy of Sri Gauranga Gauranga, today we are celebrating the divine disappearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami Pad. In honor of this very momentous occasion, we will hear and deliberate upon his life and his teachings, especially his 6 Sandarbhas. 6 treatises has written for 6 days. So, first of all, I have to make a disclaimer that actually in only 6 days you cannot study 6 Sandarbhas completely. because they are very profound and there are many great mysteries in them. But still, as a Shraddha Pushpanjali, as an offering of love and faith at the lotus feet of Srila Jiva Goswami, we will try to touch on a few of the jewels of each of the 6 Sandarbhas, which is his very great gift to this world. So, first of all, perhaps you know that Srila Jiva Goswami Pad, he was born in the early 1500s, around the 1513. It's not known exactly, but around that time. And he was born in the village of Ramkeli, and he was the son of Anupama. Actually, his name was Vallabh, and Mahaprabhu gave him the name Anupama. He is the younger brother of Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, Anupama. So Rupa and Sanatan Goswami are the uncles of Jiva. So, you know that Rupa and Sanatan, they renounced the world. They were fully detached from everything and they went to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And also, see, Jiva Goswami, his father passed away when he was very young. But Sanatan Goswami had left a large amount of money to take care of him, and he was very prescient to foresee that some difficulties may come. So he had left a large amount of money to take care of him and also to pay for his education. So in his childhood he used to have dreams of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And when he became a young man, he left his home and went to Navadip Dham. And there in Navadip Dham, when he approached, seeing that beautiful divine abode of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was giving pranam and weeping, rolling on the ground. Then as he actually entered into Antadvip Mayapur, he came there to Jagannath Mishra Bhavan. And there in Mayapur, he met with Nityananda Prabhu. He gave pranam. And Nityananda Prabhu placed his lotus feet on the head of young Jiva. And Jiva became unconscious in ecstasy. Nityananda Prabhu said, I came here just to meet with you. So how merciful is Akhanda Guru Tattva? See Nityananda Prabhu. So then Nityananda Prabhu, he took young Jiva on the parikrama of 9 islands. Antadvip, Simantadvip, Kodamdvip, Madhadvip, Koladvip, Ritudvip, Janadvip, Modadvip, Rudadvip. 9 islands fully. And described the glories of each place. In each place, hearing the Harikatha of Nityananda Prabhu, Jiva Goswami was having spurtis, visions of the various avatars and associates in each place, and especially the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which are going on eternally there. So I am inviting all of you, please come at once to Navadvip Dham. March the 3rd to the 9th, we will make parikrama this year. I'm announcing it. And then after that, just as Jiva Goswami went to Vrindavan afterwards, then after that we'll go to Vrindavan and make a festival there through, I think, until the 24th, which will include Gorbanim and Holi in Vrindavan. So make your visas now for India. So after becoming connected in his heart with the Transcendental Navadvip Dham and with Nityananda Prabhu, young Jiva did not want to leave or go anywhere. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu had a mission for him. So Nityananda Prabhu told him, no, you cannot stay here with me. First of all, you have to go to Kashi, to Banaras, and study there Vedanta and Darshan, the 6 classical philosophies of India, the Gnostic, the philosophies by those rishis who believe in the Vedas, and also the refutations of that is Astic philosophy, those who believe in the Vedas. And there are many heretical philosophies as well, like Charvak Darshan, atheists who don't believe in the Vedas, Buddhism, Jainism. You should learn all the refutations also. There, from Sri Madhusudan Vachaspati. Why did Srila Nityananda Prabhu send Jiva Goswami to study under Madhusudan Vachaspati in Kashi? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he first came to Jagannath Puri, then he explained Vedanta Sutta to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then Madhusudan Vachaspati was the disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Mahaprabhu has not written anything about the explanation of Vedanta Sutta, but he has spoken it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who has spoken it to Madhusudan Vachaspati, and he's waiting there for Jiva Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami will come there and receive Mahaprabhu's own explanation of all the Saddarshans and Vedanta and so on. So Nityananda Prabhu said, first you have to go there. And then, after that, when you have completed your studies there, you should go to Vrindavan and be under the shelter of Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and your other spiritual brothers. Raghunath Das Goswami is there. So, of the 6 Goswamis, Jiva Goswami is the youngest. He followed the order of Nityananda Prabhu and came eventually to Vrindavan. And he received Diksha from Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami has only one Diksha disciple. And Swapna dekhi si rupa radha damadare swahasta niman kare dilishi jivere. Sri Jiva Goswami became the Kripa Patra, the recipient of the full mercy of Rupa Goswami. One night, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad in a dream, he had the darshan of Radha Damodar. And then when he woke up, he carved the deities of Radha Damodar with his own hands and gave his heart to Jiva Goswami to serve there. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad was writing Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu Ujjwal Nilamani and so many other poems and dramas, Lalit Madhav, Vidagdha Madhav. And on the pretext of asking Sri Jiva to proofread them, to make sure there was no mistake, and edit them, he made Srila Jiva Goswami be the first one to relish the nectar of his transcendental writing. He used to stay there in the area which is now the Seva Kunj area where the Radha Damodar temple is, the Bhajan Kutir of Rupa Goswami is there. He used to stay there with his Guru there. Every day he used to wash his Gurudev's feet and take Charnamrita of Rupa Goswami. He was completely dedicated to serving him. And by Srila Rupa Goswami's mercy, he became inspired, he became the instrument to manifest this, what is called Bhagavat Sandarbha. Because it's a Sandarbha, it's a treatise on Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's the original name of it is Bhagavata Sandarbha, and it's known also as Shat Sandarbha. six, because this Bhagavad Sandarbha has 6 parts. What is the meaning? Oh, how he was empowered to write. You can think. You can imagine. Perhaps you know that in the West we have the epics of Greece, written by Homer, like the Iliad and the Odyssey, and Virgil's Aeneid and so on. These are very huge, epic, vast literatures. But all these literatures can fit several times inside the Mahabharata of Srila Vyasadeva. The Mahabharata of Srila Vyasadeva is 100,000 verses. So how prolific is Srila Vyasadeva? Now, Srila Jiva Goswami has written 400,000 verses. So, it gives you some idea how prolific, how Jiva Goswami was empowered by Rupa Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Through his Gurudev Rupa Goswami, he was empowered by Mahaprabhu to manifest so many beautiful Vaishnava literatures. Some of them, many of them on the subjects of Siddhanta, philosophy. But also he has written beautiful poems and pastimes of Radha and Krishna, full of rasa as well. So, what is the meaning of Sandarbha? Because Srila Jiva Goswami has collected together many important verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Sandribhyate means to collect together. He has collected the most important verses and important teachings and siddhantas together in one treatise, which is in 6 parts. So Sandribhyate means to collect together important verses. So it is called Sandarbha. So there's another definition of Sandarbha. It is said that if there is a great book and someone wants to write a treatise explaining that book, then that treatise can be called a Sandarbha if it does 4 things. 1, it reveals the confidential, secret, hidden meanings of that book. 2, it glorifies the superiority of the subject matter of the book. And it should also reveal within the book many of the parts. They have many different meanings. So it should also reveal various meanings also. And this commentary itself should be the embodiment of the essence of the book upon which it's commenting. So these are the 4 things. To reveal the secret meaning, the confidential purpose, to be the embodiment of the essence, to glorify the superiority of the subject matter, and within the text there are many different parts which have different meanings to reveal those different meanings also. So that is called a Sandarbha. Srila Jiva Goswami is presenting the Bhagavad Sandarbha in 6 parts according to the principle of Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan. It is not a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam like a running commentary. A comment on the first verse, the second verse, like that. Srila Jiva Goswami has done that. That is called the Kram Sandarbha. Kram means in the sequence. So he's written a commentary that goes verse by verse. Kram Sandarbha. And also Sanatan Goswami Pad has made a commentary called Briyat Vaishnav Toshani, and then Jiva Goswami has commented on that also, Lagu Vaishnav Toshani, going verse by verse. But this Sandarbha doesn't go verse by verse, it goes by the sequence of Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan. So here, in this context, the word Sambandha means relationship. The relationship between the various components of reality. Brahma, that means Supreme Lord. Jiva, the living entities. And the Maya, the material world. And the Supreme Lord's energies, His spiritual energies and so on. So the relationships between all of these things is called Sambandha Gyan. So, the Srila Jiva Goswami Pad has given the knowledge of Sambandha Gyan in the first 4 Sandarbhas. So the first Sandarbha is called Tattva Sandarbha. And as you'll see today is the day of Tattva Sandarbha. It deals mainly with epistemology. How can we know that something is true? Then, the second Sandarbha is called Bhagavat Sandarbha. It's explaining the meaning of Bhagavan. Then, the third Sandarbha is called Paramatma Sandarbha. It explains who is Paramatma. Because general people have an idea that it's just God. But we see that the supreme reality is experienced in 3 stages: Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is God, yes. Paramatma is God. But what's the difference? It's a very important discrimination that must be made. Essential. So that has to be clarified. So Bhagavat Sandarbha and Paramatma Sandarbha, they're separate subjects. And then, you know that Bhagavan, he has many forms. But the original form of all is Krishna. So the next Sandarbha is Krishna Sandarbha. There should be one Sandarbha just dedicated to the speciality of Krishna. So in this way, in 4 Sandarbhas, Sambandha Gyan has been given. Then in the 5th, it is Bhakti Sandarbha. This is the Abheda-abheda-tattva, the process, the method, how to attain the goal of life. And when one's practice of bhakti becomes mature, then it becomes priti, pure love. So in the last Sandarbha, that is the Prayojan tattva, priti Sandarbha. So from Prem, Sneha, Man, Pranaya, Rag, all the levels of love that the eternal associates have in the spiritual world, up to the highest love of Srimati Radharani. And rasa, all the ingredients of rasa, they have been explained in Priti Sandarbha. So over 6 days, we'll try to touch some of the main points in each one. So today, we begin with Tattva Sandarbha. Before starting this work, Srila Jiva Goswami is presenting Mangalacharanam. Mangalacharanam. It means the auspicious invocation. Now, why does a person make an auspicious invocation? It's very important. Because there may be obstacles in writing a work. So you have to pray to the Supreme Lord that by His mercy you can complete the work. and that it should be completed in a very beautiful way which is pleasing to Him. Because otherwise obstacles may come and your work will be incomplete. So Buddhists who don't believe in God, they say no need for Mangalacharna. Because there are many persons, they wrote a book and they completed it, but they never did Mangalacharna. And there are other persons who made a Mangalacharna, but they never finished their book. So there's no proof that you have to make this Mangalacharna. But we don't accept this. If the person made a Mangalacharna and did not finish, that means it was not strong enough. Or it may be that in his next life he will finish it. Because bhakti cannot be impeded. The Mangalacharna is especially important. Why? Not only for the author who is writing it, but for the readers also who are about to read it. They have to read the Mangalacharna first. And the reason is this. There is such a thing as philosophy. I don't mean philosophy in the ancient meaning of philosophy means actually to go, the same thing as in India, means to go in a trance and have a direct experience of the truth. That's the actual root. But the way people understand philosophy today is only like a series of arguments, a dialectic on the mental platform. So if you only have some arguments and structures of thoughts on the mental or intellectual platform, and you write them down, and then your reader also gets a pile of ideas. But neither the person who is writing or the person who is reading or the person who is hearing is having a direct experience of reality. Then what's the use? The purpose of Darshan, the Sanskrit word which is generally translated as philosophy, is Darshan. Darshan means to see. So it is not a collection of ideas. It is actually vision, spiritual vision of eternal reality. So, when we approach the spiritual subject matter, the writer of the spiritual subject matter, and also the reader and the hearers, in order to go beyond the limitations of mundane thought structures, and become completely attuned with the transcendental reality, that it may be disclosed internally to them in an experience. Therefore, we have to go through the process of attuning our consciousness with the Supreme Reality and pray for the mercy that that disclosure will come. So this is the reason why Mangalacharnam is necessary. There are three types. Namaskratmaka Mangalacharnam means in which one gives pranam and bows down to his beloved Lord. Vastu Nirdesh Mangalacharnam means the invocation which describes what is the subject. Vastu Nirdesh means it points out the Vastu, the substance of the book. And the third type is called Ashivad Atmaka Mangalacharnam, an invocation that gives a blessing to all the readers. So in the first verse of Tattva Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Gosvami Pad, out of great honor for the Transcendental Shastra Srimad Bhagavatam, he's just taken a verse from there. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastu Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Praye Yajantihi Sumirasaha. This verse was spoken by Karnapatava Rishi, one of the Nava-yogendras, the 9 masters of mystic yoga. The great king, Nimi Maharaj, was asking questions to the 9 yogendras. And he asked this question to Karnapatava Rishi. There are different ages in which what is the dharma, the religious principle for that each age. And what is the incarnation of the Lord who comes here and establishes that principle? So when he came to Kali Yuga, then this age we are in now, that began more than 5,000 years ago. Then Sri Karnapatava Rishi said this to us. He said that in Kali Yuga, those who are Sumedasa, they have pure intelligence. Then they will worship Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam, the incarnation of the Lord who is Krishna Varna. The word Varna has many meanings. Varna can mean syllables. Tusha Krishnam. Tvisha means the effulgence. Tvisha Akrishnam. That incarnation whose effulgence is not Krishna black. In other words, he is not dark, Sham. He is golden. And he is Krishna Varna. So this means that the word Varna can mean color. So his color is Krishna, blackish. But Tvisha Krishna, but his effulgence is not blackish. That means it's Krishna himself with the golden, covered with the golden effulgence of Radhika Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Krishna Varna, he is the color of Krishna, but his effulgence is not blackish, it's golden. So the word Varna can also mean the caste or the category, right? Like in Varnashram Dharma. So this incarnation is Krishna Varna in the category of Krishna. So, who is in the category of Krishna?
Only Krishna.
No one. Only Krishna. Even Nishingadev, Lord Ramachandra, no one. Eight Changsa Kalapungsa, Krishna is two, Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam, and all the other avatars and incarnations come from him. Only he is complete. So if it is said Krishna Varna, this incarnation is in the category of Krishna, then who is it? Krishna. Because only Krishna is in his category. He's Ekam Advitayam, one without a second. So the word Varna can mean syllables. So Tvisha Krishnam, that Supreme Lord who is golden, is Krishna Varna, always saying the syllables Krishna. So Krishna Varna means he's always singing Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The word Varna also means describe. So he's always describing Krishna Varna, that means he's always speaking Harikatha, describing the philosophy and the pastimes of Krishna. Krishna Varna Trisha Krishna, even though he is Tvisha Krishna, his complexion is not Krishna, dark. But this can be separated, this word Tvisha Krishna, in another way. It can be Tvisha Krishna. His effulgence is Sham color. That means that sometimes Mahaprabhu, for example, he was discussing Bhakti. He was discussing the goal of life with Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai said, Paile dekino toma sanyasi swarup, ebiyama toma deki shamago parup. We have been sitting here discussing for some time, and at first I was looking at you and seeing a very beautiful golden sannyasi, but now I'm looking at you and you have a sham complexion and the form of a cowherd boy. Mahaprabhu said, of course, because Stavara Jangama Dekina Dekitara Murti, Savitra Hoini Ishtadeva Spurti. You are Mahabhagavat. So Mahabhagavat, he doesn't exactly see the forms of things. He just sees his Ishtadeva everywhere. This is why. Mahaprabhu tried to cheat Ramananda Rai. But Ramananda Rai saw that Tvisha Krishnam, that though he's golden, but he saw that actually he has a sham complexion. So all these pastimes are included. Krishna Vanam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangasta Parshadam. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes with the Sa-anga, his own bodily limbs. Your limbs, they are part of you. So they're so intimate with you. So here Sa-anga means who is so near and dear, intimate with him. Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya. And Upanga. Upanga means near the limbs. So what's near the limbs? Your alankars, bhushanas, ornaments. So people decorate themselves with earrings, necklace, bangles. So the Supreme Lord has his ornaments by which he becomes more beautified. That means his associates like Srivas Thakur, Haridas Thakur. So Sangha Upanga, Astra. Astra means he comes with his weapons. So his main weapon, what is that? Hari Purata Sundara Jyoti Katan Basandi Pitaha. His golden complexion, his beauty. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so beautiful. Emana Dayalu Nahi Sunitrubhane. It is said that no one has heard of anyone so merciful as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why? Because only by seeing him from far away, then his golden effulgence would spread out and they would attain Krishna Prem. So, his weapon is his beautiful golden complexion. And his weapon is Harinam. He's distributing Prem through Harinam and Harikatha. The very powerful pastimes of Sri Krishna that were revealed. He revealed to his associates and they have revealed more and more. So these are his weapons by which he conquers the whole world. And Parshad, here Parshad, Sango Pangasta Parshadam means, here Parshad means his very intimate associates. Headed by Gadada Pandit, that is Radharani herself. And then the followers of Gadada Pandit, Rupa Goswami, Sarv Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Raghunathas Goswami, all those who are in Madhurya Rasa. They are in the category of Parshad, intimate associates. Because only those who are in Madhurya Rasa can have the opportunity to really know the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Sangopangasta Parshadam Yagyesh Sankirtana Praye. Here it is said that intelligent persons will worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mainly through Sankirtan. So mainly through Sankirtan means that other angas of bhakti will also be there. Not only chanting, but also there will be the hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, there will be service to the deities, parikramas, all these different practices of bhakti, they will be there. But they will be done with Sankirtan. So the service of the arti is going on, but with Kirtan. Before and after Bhagavatam class, Kirtan, before and afterwards. Doing parikrama, with Kirtan, like this. So everything should be along with the Sankirtan. So Yagyai Sankirtana Praya Yajantihi Sumeda Saha. Here Sankirtan means some. Some means complete. This kirtan is complete. It is not a partial kirtan. It is not an imitation of kirtan. It is Sankirtan. So the kirtan is Sankirtan, a complete kirtan, when it is done with full self-surrender. If you have alternative motives, you have your own agenda related to this physical body and mind, then you can never do Sankirtan. Because Sankirtan is transcendental. So first of all, completely give up all identification with the body and mind and the essence of oneself. Oh, this I surrender at the lotus feet of Guru and Gauranga. Then you don't even do kirtan. Because how can you do kirtan? Because you are not this body and mind or tongue or anything. But when one surrenders fully, having no other motivation, then Nam Prabhu appears himself. Because Abhinatvam Nama Namino, these are not Krishna and Krishna's name are not two things. So if you think, oh, Krishna's name is something and Krishna is something else, then this is due to Mayika Bhyabadan, the interruption, the impediment of material energy. So Sankirtan, those who are very fortunate, they'll worship Mahaprabhu by fully surrendering themselves, giving up all worldly desires, only the desire, Anya Abhilashta Sunyam Jnana Kamadhyanavartamanu Kuyena Krishna Anushivam Bhakti Uttama. The desire to please Sri Krishna. And then the Sankirtan, the divine name of Krishna, that means Krishna himself, Brajendanandan, Shama Sundar, very sweet and tender and vulnerable cowherd boy, the son of Yashoda, who is controlled by love, who is overwhelmed with affection for his devotees. Then when you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna will come. Like that. And because he is Bhaktavatsala, he is so filled with affection for his devotees. When Krishna comes, then he'll look at you with his lotus eyes. And he's so happy to see you. You have never met anyone in your life who is so happy to see you as Krishna when Krishna comes to see you. So, this is the invocation of a Tattva Sandarbha. The first part. Then in invocation, Srila, there's another verse about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explaining directly. Anta Krishnam Bahi Gauram. Inside is Krishna, outside is Gaura, that is Radhika's complexion. And then Srila Jiva Gosvami gives his pranam and prays for the mercy of Rupa and Sanatan, because he says that I am praying to them because Rupa and Sanatan, they've ordered me to write this Bhagavad Sandarbha. So he's remembering them. Perhaps you know that when Jiva Goswami was serving Rupa Goswami one day, a very great Vaishnavacharya came, Sri Vallabha Bhatta, and he came there, and Rupa Goswami honored him. He was very senior, an elderly acharya, and he said to Rupa Goswami, "Can I see what you're writing?" Rupa Goswami said, "Yes, please, and just if I've made any mistake, please correct me." So then he looked at it and he said, yes, I'll tell you later. And he gave it back. So then, that Acharya, he went to the bank of the Jamuna to take bath and remember his mantras, to do his sandhya. So, Jiva Goswami, he thought, what is this? He saw some fault in the writing of my Gurudev. How is it possible? Whatever my Gurudev writes, it's completely perfect. So, he took a pot, a clay pot, and on the pretext of going to the Jamuna to collect water, he went there. And at an opportune moment, he said, "Oh, have you seen some mistake there in the writing?" Then Vallabha Bhatta, he spoke something, and then Jiva Goswami he said, no, this is actually correct, and he corrected him. And they had a little bit of a debate, but after a short time, whatever argument that Acharya gave, Jiva refuted it and established the correct conclusion. So then that Acharya was very astonished. He was happy. Oh, this disciple is so qualified. Then he went back to Rupa Goswami and said, "Oh, your disciple is so learned and qualified." And then Rupa Goswami could understand, oh, Jiva Goswami has gone there and debated with him over something. So then, Rupa Goswami in front of Vallabhacharya, because he does not want that his guest and senior and elder learned person should feel that Rupa Goswami is minimizing him. So there are two ways. He could minimize him to his face, or he could tell the disciple, "Hey, go and say this, and minimize him through someone else." So, because Rupa Goswami himself is showing us how to be very, very careful in Vaishnava dealings. What to speak of committing an offense, actually. Or even committing offense in your mind. No. You should not behave in a way or do anything in such a way that that Vaishnava will even think that you've made offense, even if you didn't. Because if an advanced Vaishnava feels hurt in some way, then Bhakti Devi will abandon us. So be very, very careful in all Vaishnava dealings. So Rupa Goswami, in front of Vallabha Bhatta, he said, "Oh, what have you done? You are so passionate." Any person who feels the passion to assert their own self-worth, I'm an important person, recognize me. Anyone who feels the passion to assert their own self-worth, or anyone who takes pleasure in the humiliation of another person, then they are not fit to stay in Vrindavan. With the ego, ahankar, with pride, there is no question of being in Vrindavan. Anyway, the Dham is covered by Maya for that person. So he said, "You are not fit to stay in Vrindavan, you should leave Vrindavan, go back to your home." And he sent him away. So then the young Jiva was heartbroken. And he left Vrindavan, but he did not go all the way back to Bengal, where he came from. He just went north of the border of Vrindavan. On the bank of Jamuna, there's a place called Nandaghat. And there was a hole in the sand on the bank of Jamuna where a crocodile used to live. But now it was abandoned, and he went and lived in that abandoned crocodile hole. So he was there for some time, day and night, crying, "Ha Gurudev, Ha Gurudev," and chanting the holy names. After some time, Sanatana Goswami was doing Brajmandal Parikrama, and he came to a village nearby that place. And he had a relationship with all the villagers. He used to speak to them. Prajalpa, even. "Oh, how is your daughter? Did you get her married yet? How is your cow? Did your cow give birth to a calf?" Why? because he was making a relationship with them. If anyone has a sambandha with a pure Vaishnava, then this is their beginning of their Mangaludai, the awakening of good fortune in their life. So out of kindness, he was going here and there and speaking with the Brijbasis. And then making a relationship, they developed faith and love, have love for him, and then they would hear Harikatha and Kirtan. So, one Brijbasi said, "Oh, Bada Baba, he's the most senior Baba, father in Braja. There's one young Baba staying here. I thought that you were very detached and so renounced. But he's more detached and more austere even than you. He does not eat or drink or sleep. All the time he's chanting and crying." Sanatana Goswami says, "Can you show me?" And that Brajbasi took him there. And he saw in the cave, young Jiva. He'd become so lean and thin from not eating. And he was very ill, sick, almost on the verge of death. From separation from his Guru. So then Sanatana Goswami picked him up and brought him back to Vrindavan. Then he came to where Rupa Goswami was speaking Harikatha, giving class. And then Sanatana Goswami said, "Oh Rupa, you are giving a very learned discourse, but I think you have forgotten the basic teachings of our Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." Rupa Goswami said, "What? What is that?" Sanatana Goswami said, "Oh, what is the teaching of Mahaprabhu?" So then Rupa Goswami said, first, Namaruchi. One should have taste in the holy name. Then, Jiva Doya. You should have Doya for the Jivas, mercy for all living entities. Sanatana Goswami said, yes, this you have forgotten. Jiva Doya. To give Doya, mercy to Jiva. Then Sanatana Goswami said, "Come with me." And he took Rupa Goswami to where Jiva Goswami was lying very, very ill and about to leave his body. Then tears came in the eyes of Rupa Goswami. And he accepted him back, and with his own hands he was giving him medicine and feeding him and taking care of him and nursing him back to health. So, this pastime has a very deep teaching. First of all, Jiva Goswami has not done anything wrong. Because if someone will say, "Oh, your Gurudev Siddhanta is incorrect," then the disciple, he should have such Shishya Abhiman, that is such pride in being the disciple of such a Guru, that actually you should cover your ears and leave that place at once. Otherwise, if you have Shastric knowledge, then you should cut out that person's tongue. That means, scripture says cut out the tongue, but it means you should explain the Siddhanta in such a way that the person cannot give a reply. And if you cannot do one or the other, you have to kill yourself. This is the Shishya Abhiman. The identity of the disciple. So if you cannot defend, you should just leave at once. And if you can defend, you should do. So, Jiva Goswami made no mistake. So what about Rupa Goswami? Was he wrong to throw him out of Vrindavan? To banish him? No, because Guru has a right. He has a right to give discipline to the disciple and correct them. If they make a mistake, Guru can correct them. If they don't make a mistake, Guru can also correct. Why? This is prophylactic. That means that yes, you have not made the mistake yet, but Guru sees that you are going to make the mistake in the future. So he corrects you now and he is saving you. So if Gurudev will chastise you, don't get all defensive, like someone touching a rattlesnake. And no, but it's excuse. This is kripa. This is mercy of Gurudev, and Gurudev is saving you. And also, you know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has prayed, Asli Shiva Padaratam Pinastu Mama Darshanam Mama Tam Krotava Yatatava Vidadatu Lampato Mat Prananatastu Saevana Pra. Krishna may embrace me and make me so fortunate. Make me feel like the most fortunate person in the world. Or Krishna may reject me and break my heart. Krishna can do whatever he likes, but he is my prananath. So Shastra says, Yasya Devi Prabhakti Yata Deve Tata Garo Tasyaiti Katita Yata Prakasante Mahatmana. Only the disciple who has such unconditional, as love should be unconditional to Krishna. If the disciple has such unconditional love to Gurudev, Gurudev can do anything. Just like my Gurudev, when Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj said, I want to give you saffron cloth. Do you accept? My Gurudev said, you can give me saffron cloth, you can give me white cloth, you can give me stripy cloth, you can give me any color, you can make me naked, even. Anything. Whatever you tell, I will follow that. So, if the disciple has such, as one should love Krishna unconditionally, one has such affection and service towards Sri Guru, then all the mysteries of the scripture, they all become awakened in that disciple's heart. So, it was not that Rupa Goswami was cruel to Jiva Goswami. That time when he was in the crocodile cave and crying, all the pastimes of Krishna were manifesting in his heart by the mercy of Rupa Goswami. And later he wrote it down, it became Gopal Champu. So, after giving his Mangala Charnam, glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, then Jiva Goswami is praying to Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, who have ordered him to write this Sandarbha. Then he prays also to Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami by explaining that actually this book was already written by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. But the verses were not arranged in a systematic order. And so I have rearranged them and given some explanations. And so I am presenting this Sandarbha. So out of humility, he's giving respect to Gopal Bhatta. Gopal Bhatta Goswami had collected many verses, but it wasn't a finished work. So Rupa and Sanatan had ordered Jiva to complete it. And so Jiva, he presents himself just like an editor. It was practically complete. I just did some little rearranging here and there. But this is his humility, because if you like, the signature, the hallmarks of his style of presentation and so on, you can see they're all over this Sandarbhas. But in a very humble way, he's giving great credit to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So now we come to the subject matter. After the Mangala Charnam, now we're coming to the main subject matter of Tattva Sandarbha. So it's based on the verse Vadanti tat tattva-abheda-tattvam yad jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Sutta Goswami is saying Vadanti. He does not say, I know the truth. He said Vadanti tattva-abheda. The Tattva-vida, those who know the truth, Vadanti, they say. So those who know the truth, they say that reality, that truth is Advaya Gyan Tattva. Tattva means reality. Tattva means essence also. Tat means that. And Tva is like the suffix in English when you say ness. So like happy, happiness. Like this, you see. So tat, thatness. What is reality? Oh, this is the tattva. It is That it is like this. So tattva, the reality is advai gyan. Gyan means conscious, and advai means non-dual. So there's no duality in reality, and that reality is a conscious person. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaneti shabdate. And those who realize this reality, they refer to it in three ways, as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So this reality is not three things. It's only one thing. But it can be experienced in three ways. So now, Srila Jiva Goswami is presenting a discussion of epistemology. That means the philosophy of knowledge. How do we understand? How do we get valid knowledge? Praman tattva. The word Brahma means yatartha gyan, knowledge of something as it is. Brahma means yatartha gyan, knowledge of something as it is. So, the sadhana, in other words, the method by which we get the Brahma is called Praman. Pramasadayati iti Praman. That which causes us to get knowledge as it is called Praman, or evidence. So, how do we know anything? First, Srila Jiva Goswami said, there are 10 ways in which we get knowledge. First of all, we have pratyaksh, direct perception. We look, we see, we hear, we taste, we smell. So through our senses we get knowledge. This is the first type. Then, another way we get knowledge is by not seeing. If you park your car somewhere and after 1 hour you come back and you look and it's not there. So by not seeing your car, then you get the knowledge that someone has stolen your car. Okay? So that is called abhav. Abhav means absence. So, and that's also one type of pratyaks, perception. So there's perception and the anupalabdhi, the non-perception of something. These are two ways one can receive knowledge. Then we have Anuman, not Hanuman, the monkey. No H at the way, not Hanuman. Anuman. Anu means following. And man can mean mind, or it can mean what was already known. In other words, you know something, and on the basis of that, you infer another conclusion. So Anuman means inference. So, inference, there is a process in Nyaya, in logic, how we make inference. So first of all, the first aspect of inference is called pratigya. Pratigya means proposition. The proposition, for example, is there is fire on the mountain. This is the proposition. So then the next part of the syllogism is called hetu. Hetu means cause. So why is there fire on the mountain? Hetu, because there's smoke. You look far away, you don't see fire, but you see some smoke coming up. So you say, oh, hetu, the cause is I see smoke. So then the third part of the syllogism is called udaharan. Udaharana means an example. So you have to give an example of the relationship between the cause and your proposition. So the example is, wherever there's smoke, wherever there's fire, there's smoke. Like in my kitchen. When I'm in the kitchen, I light the fire and smoke comes, so this is an example. Then, the next part of the syllogism is called upanai. Upanai. That means application. So, take your cause, smoke, and your example, udaran, and apply them in this case. And that is, here, there is smoke on the mountain. There's smoke on the mountain, and because smoke and fire are never, that is the application. But because they're never separated, then you come to the conclusion. The fifth part of the syllogism is called nigamana. 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 The conclusion. Therefore, there is fire on the mountain. So, whenever you make an inference, then it's always in this form of a syllogism. And if the syllogism is correct, it is correct because there is what is called vyapti. Vyapti means concomitance. Two things are always together. So the major term of the syllogism is that means what you're trying to prove, the sadhya. What you're trying to prove is fire. That there's fire on the mountain even though you can't see it. So that is sadhya. And the middle term of the syllogism is the hetu, smoke. So for a syllogism to be valid, there has to be a concomitance, that wherever there is one, there is the other. Otherwise your syllogism will not work. So that is when two things are always together, that is called vyapt, concomitance. So this concomitance should also have two characteristics. One is called nitya, that it should be invariable. In other words, it's not that they come together sometimes, but they always come together. And it also should be unconditional. It may be that two things are always together, but under certain conditions, then they are not together. So unconditional means nir-upadik. There's no upadi. Nir-upadik. And so in the inference, in Anuman, for the inference to be valid, to be a valid inference, what has to be there is the nitya anupadik sambandha, or vyapti. Nitya anupadik vyapti. An invariable and unconditional concomitance between the major term and the middle term in the syllogism. The major term is the sadhya, what you are proving, and the middle term is the hetu, the cause, which was the second part of the syllogism. So if someone's making an argument, it can be presented in these 5 stages, and then to test the argument, you have to test to see whether there is an invariable and unconditional concomitance between the sadhya, the major term, and the hetu, the middle term. And then we can say, okay, this is correct. Because, for example, there is not the nitya anupadik sambandha between fire and smoke. Because a fire can go out, but smoke is still coming. Or sometimes, if the wood is wet, the smoke will come and you haven't made the fire yet. Like this. And so, in this way, this is how one tests the inference. So, inference, then the next way in which we try to get knowledge. That is called artapatti. Artapatti means assumption. We assume something. The classic example is, in all these examples of logic, there's a subject, a person named Devadatta. So Devadatta is very fat in this example. And someone tells you, Devadatta never eats in the daytime. Right? So then artapatti is assumption. So then you assume he must be eating like anything at night. Otherwise, how could he be so fat? So the knowledge, you can see even with your own eyes by pratyaksh. that, oh, the whole day he never eats, but he's so fat. So then by Artapati, then we can assume that he must be eating at night. So Artapati is also sometimes included as being one kind of inference, but not of the syllogistic type. So then the next type of way that we get knowledge is called Upaman. Upaman means comparison. Let's say in India there's one animal called Nilgai, the blue cow. But let's say you have never seen it. But you have seen the color blue and you have seen a cow. So one day you see some creature go over there and you go, ah, it's the Nilgai. You get knowledge, but how did this knowledge come? By comparison with things that you already knew. So that's called Upaman. Then the next way we get knowledge is called Sambhav. Sambhav means inclusion. So inclusion is like, we can say this person has $100. So from this we understand that he has $1, $2, $3, $5, up to $99. So if you know he has $100, then you know he has all the smaller amounts, because it must be included in that. For example, someone may say, all men are mortal, right? And your mother is mortal. So your mother is a man. Right? Why not? All men are mortal, your mother is mortal, so your mother is a man. No? Why not?
Also woman is mortal.
Because your mother is not included in all men. Right? So by Sambhav, by inclusion, or not inclusion, we can also understand something. Okay? So then another way in which we get knowledge is called Cheshta. Cheshta, the general meaning of Cheshta is endeavor, but here it means gestures. For example, if some Brahmins are doing a fire sacrifice, then one of them is doing some mudras, and by these mudras, another Brahmin can see which stage of the sacrifice is going on and what his duty is at that time. Or if you see someone coming from very far away, your friend who just took an exam, and you're wondering, oh, how did you do? How did you do in your exam? And from far away he goes like this. So by a gesture, by our hands, we can, by gestures, we can also receive knowledge. So we have told two types of pratyaksh. So there's pratyaksh, direct perception, and anupalabdhi, or abhav, the absence of perception. Then we told 5 types of inference, starting with anuman, the use of a syllogism, artapati, upaman, comparison, sambhav, inclusion, and cheshta, gestures. So that means we have what? 7. 2 plus 5 makes 7. So there are 2 more, and this is in 3 more. 3 more to make 10. So one is called Aitya. Aitya means tradition, history. So for example, there's a whole old red stone fort in Delhi, and everybody knows that this castle was built by the Pandavas. But actually we don't know for sure. But everyone knows. Because someone told their child, and he told his grandchild and great-grandchild, and for thousands of years everyone said this. But we don't know for sure. Everyone says it's a traditional history being passed down. It's important to understand it, because there's a difference between Guru Parampara and just passing down some history. It's not the same thing. And it will become clear gradually. So then the next is called Arsha. Arsha Praman. Arsha Praman. The proof of Arsha. And Arsha refers to a person who is a reliable source of knowledge, who is very respected in society, like a great sage, like Gautam Rishi, Kanad Rishi, Patanjali. These are all great sages, they're Arsha, and people take whatever they say to be very serious. They take it very seriously. Then, the last type is called Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman means the evidence of Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound. So, Jiva Goswami, he said that now let's analyze all these ways of receiving knowledge and see which ones we can trust. So first of all, he said that every living being in this world, the conditioned souls, they have 4 defects. Brahm, Pramada, Viprelipsa, Karnapatava, Arsa, Bhakti, Nahi dosha is Sab. So the first one is called Brahma. It means to be in illusion, or this illusion is in the form of Vikalpa. That the intellect is creating some idea which has no correlation in the concrete reality. In other words, the mind is making an abstraction, but it is not correlated to anything in the concrete reality. So that is called the Vikalpa, means abstraction or imagination or non-correlated thought construct, we can say. Vikalpa. It's a thought construct which has no correlation in reality. Vikalpa. So, Vikalpa is not necessarily harmful. For example, a poet can imagine so many things, but like metaphors are a type of Vikalpa. If the poet said, oh, his face was white as snow. So it wasn't really fully white as snow because his eyebrows were not white. And the center of his eye was not white. But anyway, he's giving in poetry it's a Vikalpa, it's a creation. But the poet and everyone knows you should just take it like a metaphor. So that is called Aklishta Vikalpa. It is not a cause of pain. But if you make a Vikalpa, your mind imagines something and you think it's real. You don't know that it's just a creation of your mind. Then that is called Klishta Vikalpa. So the Klishta Vikalpa is painful. It will cause suffering. So Brahm is an illusion, and it is a type of mental construct which is dangerous here. Brahm. So the basic Brahm is that even though God is the only self-existent being and everything is dependent on Him, but we think I am self-existent. No one is making me exist. I exist by my own power. We think that we are Swatantra Satta, independent existence. So this is the first type of Brahm. And then the next type of Brahm is thinking that the objects in the world are also self-existent, when actually everything is dependent on God. Identifying with this body, thinking this body, I am self-existent and I am this body and this body is self-existent. So all of these are the first types of Brahm, and from this other things come. If I am this body, then I am Italian, I am Russian, I am male, I am female, so on. And then all the different thoughts. I am a communist, I am a capitalist, I am an atheist. And in this way, all different mundane identities, all upadhis, designations, come into the mind, which are all false. So Brahma is the first defect. Then the second defect is called pramada. Pramada. It means literally inattentiveness. And it refers to the inability to understand the subject due to the insufficient power of concentration. Because you're not concentrating, you become confused and cannot understand the actual situation. So this is pramada. Then the next defect is called Viprelipsa. Viprelipsa literally means deceit, cheating. But mainly, even though everyone in this world, every conditioned soul in this world is a cheater, they think I'm very honest. I'm not cheating. But they're cheating themselves and they're cheating others. Why? Because if there's Brahm and you think that you are self-existent, and there's pramada, you cannot concentrate to clearly distinguish that you are not this body and that you are dependent on God at every moment, then your whole life is a lie. Everything you're doing is a lie. And because this body is temporary and the resources of the world are all limited, everyone is competing with each other. And therefore they're not honest with each other, because whatever they say or do is tainted with self-interest. So then they cheat others. So cheating comes from the first two. Naturally this cheating comes about. And it can be very subtle. For example, there may be some information that you know, and this information could help someone else, but you don't tell them. Because if you keep that information to yourself, then you have some advantage over them. Right? This is also cheating. We see that Dronacharya, he had a student, Drishtadyumna, and it was foretold that Drishtadyumna would kill Dronacharya in the future. So Dronacharya was a martial arts teacher, and Drishtadyumna came to his school and enrolled as his martial arts student. And then Dronacharya could have thought, wait a minute, he's going to kill me, I'm not going to teach him about weapons and fighting and archery and all of these things. Or maybe I'll teach him something, but not all the best things, so if he fights with me, then he cannot win. No. But because Dronacharya is a Brahmin, even though he knew that this person in the future would kill him, but he taught him everything. Would you do it? If you wouldn't do it, then this shows Viprelipsa. This is one of the defects of the conditioned souls. And then the last defect is called Karnapatava. Karana means senses, and apatava means that they don't have acute powers. The senses are not sharp, they are blunt. We don't see things, very small things we cannot see, very big things we cannot see. Very high notes we cannot hear, very low notes we cannot hear. Our senses experience something, but there are many, many things outside of the range of our senses. And even what we do see, we experience it in a very limited and imperfect way. So that's called Karnapatava. Now, Srila Jiva Goswami said, because of these four defects, so Pratyaksh is not a reliable source of knowledge. Direct perception is not a reliable source of knowledge. So then, Abhav, the absence of perception also, like someone can say, there's no God. Why? I cannot see God. By not seeing God, I have concluded, I can infer that God does not exist. But because of imperfect senses, then this is not a good conclusion. So pratyaksh is not valid. Abhav is not valid. Then we come to anuman, using syllogism. The syllogism is put together. It's based on certain premises and causes, but all of these themselves are based on sense perception also. How do you know there's a mountain or a fire or smoke? You have to see it. So because the senses are imperfect, then even if your logic could be perfect, but your logic is not perfect because it's completely dependent on the imperfect senses. So then the 5 categories, 5 ways of getting knowledge through included in the category of inference. So Anuman, Artapati, Sambhav, Upaman and Chesta, they're also not perfect ways of understanding. Now we come to the 3 categories of Shabda. One is history, one is hearing from a learned, respected person, a Muni, and the last one is Shabda Praman, Shabda Brahma, the Vedas. So, there are 2 types of Shabda. One type of Shabda is called Apaurushaya. Apaurushaya. Purush means of human. Purushaya means having a human source. So if you go to the library, there are thousands of books that are all written by some defective human. But there's a type of sound called Apaurushaya. It is not coming from a defective human source. So the Vedas are called Apaurushaya Shabda, the sound which has no human origin. Now when we examine the 3 categories of Shabda here, there is Aitya, history. So history is just one person passed down to another, and because of cheating, even no one knows what happened last week. If someone were to write a history of what happened last week, people would write different versions of it because there are so many cheats. And everyone is explaining according to what will give an advantage to themselves. So history, we cannot trust it unless the history is coming from a person who is free from 4 defects. And not from a conditioned soul. Why? And the reason is because there are 2 types of pratyaksha also. Vaidusha pratyaksh and avaidusha pratyaksh. The Vaidusha pratyaksh means the direct perception of a person who is free from 4 defects, a liberated soul. For example, Lord Brahma, he went into trance and he saw something. Vainam kvanantam maravinda dalayataksham bhavatam samasitam buddha sundaram kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamam Bhajami. So he was liberated, pure devotee. By the power of bhakti, all his senses became enlivened and he saw reality. That the supreme reality was Krishna playing on a flute, wearing a peacock feather with a complexion like a fresh rain cloud and so charming, more charming than millions of Cupids, Kamadevs, gods of love. So, this is the Vaidusha Pratyaksh, the experience of a person who is liberated. So that can be accepted. If they will tell something, then this is really becomes like it is as authentic as the Vedas. Actually, it goes also Shabda Brahman. Because what they have seen is reality, and then that is coming from their lips in the form of Shabda Brahma. So general history is not acceptable, general tradition passed down by conditioned souls. Then you have the Arsha, the great Munis. Many of the Munis disagreed with each other. One great sage has given the Nyaya Darshan, logic. Another one Like Kanad Rishi gave Vaisheshik Darshan. Patanjali gave Yoga Darshan. Kapil Muni gave Sankhya Darshan. And they all disagree with each other on different things. So we cannot accept just because someone is very respected sage and learned in society that their words are praman for the absolute truth. So only if the Muni is someone like Narada Muni, Shuka Muni, then they are liberated and beyond all defects. We can accept those sayings. How will you decide who has become free from defects? So they will not speak separate from the last and final one is Shabda. Shabda Praman. So Shabda Praman is transcendental sound. Now the difference between material sound and transcendental sound is that in material sound, the signifier and the signified are two different things. If you say the word cow, then the word cow and the animal cow, they are two different things. But in Shabda Brahma, then the word Krishna and Krishna, it is indivisible. And therefore, if a person will speak Shabda Brahma, and the person has the power to hear Shabda Brahma, then this knowledge can be accepted as perfect knowledge. Because it's indistinguishable from direct experience of eternal reality. So, let me see. Now, Srila Jiva Gosvami, he will explain that, okay, out of all the ways of knowing, the only one that can give us perfect knowledge is Shabda, the Vedas. Now the question is, how can we understand what is this message of the Vedas? At first the Veda was one, Yajurveda. And then at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, Vyasadeva divided it into four and became Rig Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda and Yajurveda. And he entrusted this to four of his disciples. And then they also divided the Vedas into parts. Now each Veda has four sections. The Samhita portion, Samhita, then the Brahman portion, then the Aranyaka portion, and then the Upanishads. And these are especially relevant to persons in different stages of their life. The Brahmacharis, they study the Samhitas. The householders study the Brahman portion after studying the Samhitas. The Aranyakas means forest. So the Vanaprasthas who go to the forest, that is for them. And then the Upanishads is especially for the sannyasis, those who have renounced everything in this world. So the Vedas have four portions. So these four sections of the Vedas were also divided into parts. 1,130 parts. So there are 1,130 Samhitas, 1,130 Brahmanas, 1,130 Aranyakas, and 1,130 Upanishads. So altogether, the Vedic texts are 4 times 1,130 is 4,520. Okay? There are 4,520 Vedic literatures. Now Jiva Goswami says that actually over the thousands of years, many of them have been lost. And there are figures, we have like whatever, about 18 Samhitas left, or maybe 12 Brahmanas left, and some Upanishads. So when you add it all up, right now, or let's say when Jiva Goswami Pad was writing 500 years ago, less than 6% of the Vedas were still available. Less than 6%. So Srila Jiva Goswami Pad is making an argument that if our evidence is the Vedas, and we want to know what is the truth is from this, but we only have less than 1/6. If someone gave you a book with 94% of the page is ripped out. And I say, now read this book, I'll test you later. Then what can you do? So Srila Jiva Gosvami Pad said, it's just not practical, it's not possible in this modern day to know what is really the message of the Vedas anymore. He said, but fortunately, we have the Puranas. And the Puranas, in many ways, are superior to the Vedas. Why? One way in which they are superior is accessibility. Because there are two types of Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit and Lokic Sanskrit. Lokic Sanskrit means the more common Sanskrit which is spoken among the people, among the Pandits. They can speak Sanskrit with each other. But Vedic Sanskrit has some extra vocabulary and very specialized rules. And it was not spoken, but it was used in the Vedas and used in rituals. So it's very difficult to learn this Vedic Sanskrit. And even just to begin to study it, you have to know Six Vedangas. So the six Vedangas are Shiksha, that means proper pronunciation. Shiksha Kalpa, how to perform rituals, the details of rituals. Shiksha Kalpa. Nirukta means etymology. How do you derive the meaning of the Vedic words? Then Vyakaranam, grammar, the Vedic grammar. Then Jyotish. Jyotish means astrology, but the astrology which is related to when to perform different Vedic rituals. And then let me see what we have. Shiksha, Kalpa, Nirukta, Chanda. Chanda means meters, Vedic meters. So if you're chanting a Vedic mantra and you don't get the meter right and you don't put the stress on the right syllable, then you can change the meaning. In Lokic Sanskrit, they don't have what is called Udata, Swarit and Anudata. That means when you're saying a mantra, Sahasasisha Purusaha Sasakshasasapati, there are different levels of the voice, the high, the medium and the low. And you have to do, and the Brahman is chanting and going like this with his finger and pointing. So, and you have to make the right tone and the right syllable. So even if you say the mantra exactly correct, but you put the wrong note, then the meaning changes. And there's an example of that in Srimad Bhagavatam, when the Twasta performed the yagya. He wanted to create from the yagya a demon who would kill Indra, but because he said, put the wrong note, on the emphasis on the wrong syllable, so he ended up getting a demon who would be killed by Indra instead of killing Indra. That was Vitrasura. So the Vedic Sanskrit is very difficult. You have to go through many, many years of study just to be able to study the Vedas, to begin your study of the Vedas. But the Puranas are written in Lokic Sanskrit. So you can quickly learn it or hear it. Another thing is that Stri Sudra Dvija Bandhu Nam Trai Nasruti Gochara Kama Sraya Simodanam Sremaiva Bhavediya Iti Bharatamakyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam. It is said that ladies, Vaishyas and Sudras, they are not allowed to study the Vedas. But everyone can study the Puranas. So the Puranas are more accessible because the language is easier. It's not forbidden for ladies and Vaishyas and Sudras and everyone, Chandalas, Yavanas and Malechas from all over the world. Everyone, they can hear and study the Puranas. Now another thing about the Puranas is that it is said, Itihasa Purananam, Itihasam Puranam cha Panchamam Veda Vishwaraha. The histories, Itihas here, the histories means the Mahabharata and Ramayana. Purananam and the Puranas. They are Panchama Vedam Ishvaraha. They are called the fifth Veda. So one should not say that the Puranas are, oh, Vedas are great and the Puranas, they're for the low class people and they're not very good. No. But rather the word Purana comes from Purna, complete. Because what is not fully explained in the Vedas has been explained. The Puranas explain the Vedas, and also what is not there explained explicitly in the Vedas, it is explicitly explained in the Puranas with so many stories and histories as well to make it very clear. So Srila Jiva Goswami Pad said, we cannot say that the Puranas are less than the Vedas. Why? Because the Shastra itself, in Chandogya Upanishad, it said the Puranas are the fifth Veda. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it also says. In the Mahabharata also. So in the Itihas, in the Puranas themselves, and in the original Vedas, it is said that the Puranas are the fifth Veda. So this is one proof that they are not less than the Vedas. The second proof is they have the same source. Srila Vyasadeva has compiled the original four Vedas, and Srila Vyasadeva has also written the Puranas. So they are of the same quality. Then the next thing is that because it is said the word Purana means that which completes the Vedas. By the logic that you cannot complete a gold bracelet with wood, or with lead, or with bronze, or anything else. Let's say the goldsmith is making a bracelet out of gold, and he's making it and putting different shapes and everything, but then he runs out of gold. How can he complete the bracelet? He cannot complete it with wood or brass, bronze. In order to complete it, he needs more gold. So because the Puranas complete the Vedas, they must be of the same quality as the Vedas themselves. Like this. So Jiva Goswami is giving this. So don't worry. He's saying, of all the different ways of knowing, 9 ways we have demonstrated they're okay for everyday practical life, but to know the truth, they're not reliable. And we only accept them if they are supported by Shabda Praman. Now of the Shabda Praman, the Vedas, actually most of them are lost, so this will not work. So we should not worry about that. Let's just go to the fifth Veda, the Puranas. Now, Jiva Goswami makes his next statement. He's going somewhere. Can you guess where he's going? Okay. So then he said, you know that in the Matsya Purana, it is said that there are 18 Mahapuranas. And 6 of them are for people in the mode of Tamagun. 6 are for those in the mode of Rajagun. And 6 are in the mode of Sattvagun. So, even though the Puranas are very good, but we should not follow the teachings which are recommended for those in Tamas and Rajas. So, among those who are in the Sattvic Puranas, like Vishnu Purana, Padma Purana, and Bhagavad Purana, then which one should we follow? And how will we know what if we have interpreted it in the correct way? So then he says that Srila Vyasadeva, after writing all the Puranas, he gave the Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra. And this Vedanta Sutra is the essence of the Upanishads. But also these sutras are very terse and difficult to understand. And so people have interpreted them in different ways. So then, I hear a voice. What are you saying? And the voice says, this is one type of poetic embellishment in writing. Jiva Goswami said, oh, I can hear someone. Someone is saying, wouldn't it be good if there were a Purana which was among the Sattvic Puranas, composed by Vyasadeva, and which was an explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, and the explanation of Gayatri. Then this would be the best source of the transcendental knowledge, the voice said. In reply, Jiva Goswami said, my friend, we are fortunate because such a book exists. In the Garuda Purana, it is said, Arto yam brahmasutranam bharatata vininayo gayatri bhasyarupaso vedata paribrimita. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Arto yam brahmasutranam, is the explanation of Vedanta Sutra, written by the author of Vedanta Sutra himself. If someone will try to interpret Vedanta Sutra, they may or may not interpret it correctly, but if the author himself will explain it, how can it be wrong? So, Arto Yam Brahma Sutranam, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the explanation of Vedanta Sutra. Bharatata Vinirnayaha, it defines the essential meaning of the Mahabharata, the great itihas, history manifested by Vyasadeva. Arto Yam Brahma Sutranam Bharatata Vinirnayo Gayatri Bhasya Rupaso, and it is a bhasya, a commentary on Gayatri. So Gayatri is Veda Mata, the mother of all the Vedas. First there was Om, and from Om came Bhu Bhuva Swaha, that's it, the Gayatri mantra, and then from Gayatri mantra all the Vedas have come. So Gayatri Bhasya Rupaso Vedata Paribrimita, and it explains the essential meanings of all the Vedas. So these are 4 qualifications. It is a commentary of Vedanta Sutra by the original author. It explains the essence of the Mahabharata, the main itihas. It is a commentary on Gayatri Bhasya, which is the mother of all the Vedas, and explains the meaning of the Vedas. So this is the best praman. So then Srila Jiva Goswami Pad, he says, in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself it is said, Krishnai swadam upagate jnana Krishnai swadam upagate jnana bhakti jnana adibisaha dharma jnana adibisaha kalau nashta dushamaisha puranako dunoditaha. The sages of Naimisharanga asked Sutta Goswami, now Kali Yuga is coming. The Supreme Lord Krishna has already become unmanifest and left this world. And he was the shelter of Dharma. He was the shelter of Gyan, all transcendental knowledge and religious principles. But now he's gone. So now that Sri Krishna has left this world, where will Dharma find a shelter? Where will Gyan go to take shelter? So in response to this, Sutta Goswami said, Krishnai swadam upagate. Now Krishna's gone to Goloka Vrindavan, to his dham. Dharma jnana dibisaha, along with Dharma and Gyan, all religious principles, and transcendental knowledge. So he took them with him. Kalau nashta drishammesha. And now Kali Yuga has come. And the people of Kali Yuga, their drisha, that means their vision, is nashta, completely destroyed. Kalau nashta drishammesha. The people in Kali Yuga, they look but they don't see. They are completely in illusion. What does it mean? If you are looking and seeing the gross physical world, it is very hard. Someone put something here. It is very solid, it is very hard, it is very problematic. And you can try to own it, control it, enjoy it. You are seeing the world, the gross material world. Actually, it's not gross. Everything is Krishna's energy, completely spiritual. But because we are in Maya, we are perceiving this is not Krishna's energy. The Supreme Lord is not present in everything. Everything is not moving by His will. everything is not fully unfolding according to his plan. The artha, that means the inconceivable Shakti of the Lord, by which everything is going on, we don't see it. So, ritertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadat manomayam yatabasho yatatama. In Chatusloki Bhagavatam it is said, whatever appears to be without artha, that means that the Supreme Lord is not present and doing everything by His inconceivable potency. When you don't see that, then tad vidyat atmanomayam, you should know that's Maya. So the world isn't Maya. Pure devotees are also walking around in the world. Are they in Maya? No. Only seeing that the world is gross, that it is independent of God, that it is separate, and that it is an object that we can own and control and enjoy. This gross vision, this is Maya. But actually, some persons, they believe in solipsism. That means that only I exist. Everything is a figment of my imagination. The whole world is a creation of my own mind. And it's very silly, because they cannot control anything. If they created the whole universe, then why are they struggling so much? Why are they paying tax to the government? And working for money to pay them and all this? It's just ridiculous. But they can imagine in their craziness that the whole world is the product of their mind. Yeah? But the truth of the matter is that the whole world is the product of Krishna's mind. So idealism means only I exist. This is subjective idealism. Only I exist and it's all a creation of my mind. But actually, everything is manifested by the mind of Krishna, all by His inconceivable potency according to His will. So, Oma Jnanati Marandasya Jnananjana Salakya. When the mercy of Gurudev comes and we realize this, then our gross vision goes away and we see everything. Oh, only Krishna's energy everywhere. Only Krishna's inconceivable Achincha Shakti is doing all things. Then, for you, for that disciple at that moment, the whole world has become dematerialized. It's not in the material world anymore. It's Krishna's external energy. But Krishna is spiritual, His energies are spiritual. One spiritual energy is the internal and one spiritual energy is the external. But all spiritual. And nothing independent at all. So by the mercy of Guru, Chakshu Unmilitam Jena, Tasmai Si Gurave Nama, our eyes become open, whole world becomes dematerialized for that disciple. And he is completely always in bliss and serving at every moment. So, Pratyartam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani. So, but in this age of Kali, who has this vision? So Sutta Goswami is saying, Krishnai swadam upagate dharma jnana dibisaha kalau nasta darshamesha puranako dunoditaha. Since Krishna has gone to Goloka Vrindavan, Dharma and Gyan have gone with him, and in Kali Yuga everyone is completely in the dark, they're looking, but in complete darkness of illusion. But in that darkness, Esha Puranako Dunoditaha. The Srimad Bhagavatam is risen up like the sun to give a vision to everyone. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. So, in the beginning of Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami is establishing what is our best path. Our path is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the Bhakta Bhagavat. If you will hear it, though you are in darkness in this Kali Yuga, the Srimad Bhagavatam will rise up like the sun, dematerialize the whole world, and you will be completely liberated, pure Vaishnava. Now, why is it that this Srimad Bhagavatam is now become the shelter of all knowledge and all dharma? I thought that Krishna was the shelter of knowledge and dharma. So the answer is, the Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna. This is the Vanmayi Murti, sound incarnation of Krishna himself. If you will hear it, then you will see Krishna, you will see Vrindavan, you will see Radhika, Lalita, Vishaka and Rasalila and everything. just in the sound of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Tattva Sandarbha ki jai, Srila Jiva Gosvami Pad ki jai, Tadiya Tirubhavti Tima Modzava ki jai, Tibhuvana Mangakari Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Jai Gaura Premanande, Jiva.